This is the Private Officer Beat Radio with Rick McCann at the microphone. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's radio show, the POI, Private Officer International, the Private Officer Beat Radio. On this Monday morning, the 5th of June, 2023, a production of Blue Ram Media Group, LLC, and Private Officer International, brought to you every week live from our studios, or every once in a while, when I'm traveling on the road, is brought to you live from a remote location, wherever that might be. But we are able to set up our studio and just go on with the program, just like if I was back at the office, back at the HQ. Last week we talked about the Industrial Revolution and really how that does play into everything from that point on, every form of production, every form of service. It really doesn't matter. The Industrial Revolution brought processes, it brought change, and every type of business, every type of service, from government to public, doesn't matter if you're an electrician, a firefighter, or a small business owner. Everything that we do, every single day, we have processes, and we have methods, and we have procedures. And if we can find a way to make things better, smoother, quicker, produce more in, less time, less effort, less money, that's all good business standards. That's all good for the business, for the consumer. And in law enforcement, the fire service and EMS, and now private security, we have to go with the flow. We've got to make those changes. And so we're doing a trilogy, a three-part trilogy on the changes coming about in the private security sector and law enforcement. And really what you're seeing is law enforcement is becoming more reactive. And that's because many of the communities don't want them to be out there aggressively policing or enforcing. And security is becoming less reactive and more proactive. I know many people want to say observe and report, but the truth is security officers are responding to everything from emergencies, medical emergencies, to fires, to thefts and robberies in progress. Don't believe me? Well, just this past week, we announced a very large list of recipients of the 2023 Private Officer International Awards. And many received awards, meritorious awards, valor awards, life-saving awards. Just, you wouldn't believe all of the news that we see here at the Private Officer International Office every single day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We are literally monitoring around 3,000 international news sites from the U.S. and from many countries. We get news feeds direct. We get businesses that send us emails of what's happening in their area and their company. We get individuals who send us emails. We have a lot of insight what's happening in private security, law enforcement, public safety, loss prevention, and all of the arenas, both private and public. And that's why we get so many requests and calls from both reporters and attorneys asking for data, statistics, information, because they too are seeing what's happening. Just this past week, NBC, DFW, Dallas-Fort Worth, we had a chat with them, and they did a story about the dangers in private security and what we have collected and what they noticed aligned. It wasn't some far-fetched story. It wasn't some make-believe situation, but they, too, could see the dangers in private security because in that Dallas-Fort Worth area, 3 security officers murdered just in the last 6 weeks, and many others injured. So they did a little of their own checking, contacting us as well, and they did an excellent story about the dangers in the security field. Allied Universal, the president and CEO, was interviewed for that story, and he himself admitted things are changing. Although he said Allied was doing the best they could to train their personnel and to put them in positions where it's not, World War III. There's really no easy way to predict when something's going to happen. That's true and not true. There are definitely ways to assess a property, a community, a neighborhood to see if they have high crime stats, if they have a lot of murders, if there's a lot of thefts, robberies, a lot of violence. If you put somebody into a nightclub and they've had 3 murders in 3 years or 2 years, yeah, you might want to think about not taking that contract, not putting your officers in harm's way. But anyways, we're certainly going to highlight in the best way possible the dangers in the security field, the triumphs in the security field, and how times are changing in the security field. I've been talking at least for 2 or 3 months now, but really for years, about those changes and why we have to adapt and overcome and start thinking about using more technology, whether that be drones or robots or electronic security camera surveillance, whatever it might be to help us, join together with physical security and help us to be able to not only provide our customers with better service, but to better protect us. The more that we know in advance, the more that we can see what's happening on the property before we respond, the safer we will be able to do our job. There'll be far less injuries and far less homicides. One of the notable facts that Allied Security, the press, regulatory agencies, law enforcement, and many others cannot get away from is the fact that, as one reporter said recently, it almost seems like there's a security guard, he called them, being killed or having to kill someone every day. And the fact is, that is the fact. That's true. Every day in our office, someplace across the country, a security officer is being shot, murdered, or has to use lethal force. In fact, we're compiling a brand new study of 800 use of force incidents over the last 18 months by private security. We'll have that compiled and completed next week. I am almost 100% sure that we can show the increase of use of force by security has dramatically climbed just in the last 18 months, and definitely just in the last 3 years. We're going to take our first break here on the Private Officer Beat Radio, but I do want to say thank you for listening live. If you are listening here during our broadcast or streaming on more than 30 different platforms that we stream, and we stream 24/7, so you can listen anytime, whether you're at work, driving down the road, or sitting at the house. But we are going to take our quick break here on the Private Officer Beat Radio. We're coming right back. Private Officer International, the voice of the frontline protector, and a production of Blue Ram Media Group, LLC. We'll be right back.
I heard about a shooting involving a 3-year-old girl over the summer. My daughter daughter Riley is that age.
There was a point when I felt that I was going to die.
My parents used to always say a bullet doesn't have a name on it.
Someone put a bullet in the back of my 14-year-old son's head.
The gun should never be an option.
We're Americans. We don't have to live like this.
We can all make a difference.
In the United States, 88 people die of gun violence every day.
We can end gun violence.
Are you looking for the finest private security officer training in the Charlotte metropolitan area? Do you need PPS qualifications in armed or unarmed training? Or maybe you're over there across the line in South Carolina and you need the SLED training. Well, we've got the right training at the right time for you. Premier Training Academy, located at 5624 Executive Center Drive, Suite 142 in metropolitan Charlotte, North Carolina. Give them a call today, 704-806-4933. They also offer firearms training, personal protection, first aid and CPR, and so much more. Call John at 704-806-4933. Those of you living along the Atlantic coast or the Gulf Coast, well, you know what time it is, and that is hurricane season. Hurricane season officially began June 1st, and we already have two named storms, one occurring over the weekend, at first looking like it was going to remain a subtropical storm in the Gulf, but it began to speed up and get a little bit stronger with each passing hour, and that storm headed toward the Alabama-Mississippi coast, then veered a little bit to the right. That storm there was a tropical storm, winds gusting at 55 miles an hour, sustained at 45. The waters are very warm along the Gulf Coast. It won't take a whole lot for the next tropical storm to definitely turn into a hurricane. In fact, the Hurricane Prediction Center has stated that this will be an above-average season. They expect a number of storms to turn into strong hurricanes, and many others will remain tropical storms or on the lower spectrum hurricane, category 1 or 2. But that can still do a lot of damage. We saw a couple of years ago along the Alabama Gulf Coast something that wasn't even heading toward the Alabama, Mississippi, Florida coast, all of a sudden take that turn, pick up speed, and although it remained a Category 1, it caused a lot of damage, some loss of life, and still today some areas are still recuperating from that hurricane, still repairing, and unfortunately, hurricanes, whether they are Category 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they can do a lot of damage and take with them a lot of loss of life. Even tropical storms and sudden thunderstorms with flash floods can cause loss of life and a lot of property damage. Having grown up along the Atlantic coast and loving it, I realized at a very young age, as I saw my first hurricane come up the Atlantic seaboard and into New England, that, you think one moment, this isn't going to be so bad, but then that storm arrives, and before you know it, that whole area is in serious danger. Powerful winds whipping, knocking things down. I can remember the first time the storm came through, and although it was just a Category 1 hurricane, a lot of trees fell, power lines, power outages, and it was definitely a scary situation. So if you live along the Atlantic or the Gulf Coast, this is definitely the time to begin preparing for those tropical storms, the hurricanes. We are possibly going to have quite a really bad year of storms. Be prepared, not only have a go bag, but make sure that you have food and water supplies, batteries, all of the essentials. You can go to the American Red Cross website. They have a list of things that you should put together to be prepared. And I heard some very good advice from someone along the Alabama Gulf Coast this weekend when he was being interviewed by reporters. Don't second guess. Don't think everything is going to be okay. When the authorities tell you to leave, leave. Yeah, you can ride it out. I remember maybe 4 or 5 years ago, a family in Florida chose to do just that because they had weathered the storms before. But unfortunately, one of their family members lost their life, the house completely destroyed and sent down the road, and they themselves admitted they had made a mistake. Let's not make a mistake. Let's be prepared. If the authorities say leave, evacuate, especially if it's a mandatory evacuation, don't wait until the last minute, because then you will be stuck in traffic. Then you will probably not be able to get gas. Then you will be in crisis mode. Leave ahead of time. Leave a few days early. Get a hotel a few hundred miles north or west or east, whatever direction you've got to go. And if you're in security, law enforcement, public safety, and you have to stay, make sure that you are prepared, that you're able to hunker down someplace like at the police precinct or fire station where they have a little better built buildings that might be able to withstand those strong winds. Wow, I'm just, after seeing the storms developing so quickly right at the cuff of the hurricane season, it really has me on high alert, because I've been through many of them. I've responded to them. I have worked them. I have lived through them. And I know how quickly they can come up, how quickly they can change course, and how dangerous they can be. So think ahead, plan ahead, and be safe. Today, of course, we had a lot of breaking news that we want to tell you about. We're going to be talking about a couple of things coming up. We told you last week about that free training conference. It's going to be in Tinsley Park, Illinois, just outside of Chicago, free. You don't have to pay a thing. It's security and police. It's the Midwest Security Police Expo, and it's really a great opportunity to mix and mingle, get some free training. And we're going to be there, myself, some of my team members, some POI members, at least 2 that I know of, maybe 3. And we also have something coming up along the Gulf Coast. We'll be telling you more about that coming up in the next week or 2. And we've also confirmed recently another conference that we're putting together. And we just had interesting conversation with law enforcement. We'll be telling you more about that coming up as well. We're going to take another quick break. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook.com/Private Officer International, Twitter.com/Private Officer. And you can also read our breaking news 24/7, Private Officer Breaking News.blogspot.com.
Hi, I'm Peter Hooley. My mum has always been my biggest fan. She cheered from the bleachers, from the living room, from her hospital bed, until one day she stopped cheering. My mum died of colon cancer at the age of 52. If she had been screened earlier, it could have saved her life.
If you're over 50, get screened today so you can be cheering tomorrow.
Body Armor USA, we've got what it takes to protect you. Whether you're looking for the top quality protective armor or protective clothing, stab-resistant vests or gloves, contact my friend Ben over at Body Armor USA. Give him a call, 516 area code 817-1666. Again, that's area code 516-817-1666. Body Armor USA, we've got what it takes to protect you. No doubt about it. Now, Private Officer International, the organization established to aid and assist, to recognize the value of, and to promote the private security industry, private law enforcement, and public law enforcement, has done just that. And almost since the beginning, we have had an annual Private Officer Award ceremony recognizing those who have gone way above and beyond anything that's expected or would be expected of a security officer, and to recognize those who have put their life on the line. And this year, once again, 2023, the Private Officer Awards Committee has selected several dozen recipients of various awards. And I want to congratulate each and every one of you for receiving this recognition. And anyone out there who knows of a security officer, a police officer, a private law enforcement officer, or somebody else in the public, any type of position, who's done something heroic, gone above and beyond, please send that information to helpdesk@privateofficer.com. This year, we're recognizing with a meritorious award Deborah Grumbling, Security Officer Peter Delaney, and Security Officer Franklin Wright, for going above and beyond, doing things that they didn't have to do, helping people when they didn't have to. And this next group, the Life Saving Awards, they also did just that as well. Paul S. Picks helped to save a life by performing CPR. Marcus Johnson rescued a swimmer in distress. Margaret Delaney performed CPR and helped save a life. Nico Nesbitt and Joey Mangro, they rescued a baby who was choking in California while on patrol, stopping at a gas station for gas and a snack. They realized that someone else in the parking lot, a woman with a child, was in crisis mode, and they immediately went to the aid, and they are being recognized today for their heroic actions. Sarah Atkins also helped a choking person, as did Nurse Judy Marcus and Deputy Jones. They all helped a choking person, and Deputy Mike Reed was working at a school when he saw someone choking and immediately went to their aid. Also receiving meritorious awards, Ranger Lorenza Savage, who works in Knoxville at the Knoxville Zoo, Deputy Roger Moore, Lieutenant Tracy Fontaine, a law enforcement officer, Christopher Carr, a law enforcement officer, Andre Valier, Lonnie Muhammad, who is a supervisor at a hospital, and Valerie Baxter. We have awarded this lady before. She is a public safety officer at the High Point University in North Carolina. And once again, she's been featured recently on the news for just being there, for not only students, but staff, parents, anyone who needs a hand, a hug. And so we recognize Public Safety Officer Valerie Baxter again. A number of people also received the Medal of Valor for extreme heroics, and that included Kevin Carrington. This security officer was shot in the line of duty, but he did not let that stop him from completing his mission, and we definitely want to recognize him today. Chief Russell Raines, former law enforcement and now a security company owner, Captain Sarah Barnhart, Officer Gavin Grismer, and Michael DeGregorio, who was on duty at a school. A student was stabbed, and he heroically saved that student's life. 3 people are receiving the Purple Heart this year. Tia Patterson of North Carolina, a former hospital security supervisor, was violently attacked and seriously and critically injured. And we recognize her for her heroics. And Scott Robinson also being honored this year with the Purple Heart, and George Thurston injured in the line of duty while trying to subdue a wanted person. We're also presenting the following with Excellence in Action Awards this year. We have Glenda Charles, David Long, Keith Moorhead, Roy O'Brien, and Kevin G. Brooks. Congratulations to you all for being an example and receiving the Excellence in Action. Lifetime Achievement Award, Dwight W. Franklin, Roger Reneker, and William F. Beckton, all receiving the Lifetime Achievement Award. And the COVID-19 Frontline Protector Awards went to Robert Shaw, Marianne Butterworth, Sergeant Maggie Frost, William B. Williams, and Major Troy Cash for working, going above and beyond when they could have sat home. They were out there in the field doing their job safely, of course, with PPE, and we recognize all of them today. We'll be right back here on the Private Officer Beat Radio, a production of Blue Ram Media Group, LLC, and Private Officer International.
Slow down.
Slow down and move over.
And move over. When you see lights,
Best. Or reflectors.
please, give us some room. Slow down and move over. When you need us,
We've got your back.
you have ours.
You got our back?
You got ours? You got our back? Please, slow down.
And move over.
Once again, this week in the breaking news here at Private Officer International, we have a lot of violent incidents that have occurred just in the last week or so. An off-duty security officer who we're not really sure whether or not he was working at a special event in Atlanta or not. Police have not yet released all the details, but at a club called the 1050 Social Club, a 27-year-old security officer was shot multiple times and killed. Police initially told the media that he was off duty, but now we're hearing that possibly he was working. We're still trying to figure that out, and his identity has yet to be released. In Los Angeles, a security officer shot and killed a man as they were trying to eject this person from the premises. This happened at Washington Boulevard and Los Angeles Street. About 7 a.m., police responded. One security officer was shot in the leg. Police say that they were involved in a shootout with the man. That person died of his injuries, but police are not releasing a whole lot other information. In Madison, Wisconsin, a University of Wisconsin non-sworn officer, a security officer, died suddenly. Security Officer Peter Quilling was a bright spot in people's day. The department tweeted he leaves behind his wife. No word as to the cause of death. A Florida woman faces negligence, child negligence, as well as arson. She left her children in the vehicle as she shoplifted at a Dillard's store at the Oviedo Mall. While in there, security happened to notice her shoplifting, and Alicia Moore, 24, exited and was stopped by security, who then saw a vehicle in the parking lot on fire. Police say that her children were inside the vehicle. Others in the parking lot and security were able to get the children out. One child suffered first-degree burns to her face and ears, according to the arrest report. Now, Moore has been charged with aggravated child neglect for allegedly allowing children who cannot care for themselves to be alone in the vehicle, and for arson, because during the commission of a crime, someone was seriously injured, according to the report. Corporal Sean Kelly, a police officer with Denham Springs, Louisiana Police Department, died after being shot. The police officer was investigating an incident when a person pulled a gun and killed the corporal. West Virginia State Police was reporting one of their troopers were killed. Sergeant Corey Maynard was killed while responding to a shooting call in the Beech Creek area of Mingo County. The subject opened fire on responding officers, hitting the sergeant. He died shortly later. A security officer in Washington State was killed. This was at a bowling alley. A disturbance and a triple shooting ensued. Police say 2 people, including the security officer, was shot. The name of the security officer has not been released. In Sioux Falls, South Dakota, a man who was attempting to steal a car with a child inside pulled a knife on a security officer. The would-be carjacker, this happened at 12th and Summit in Sioux Falls. The suspect then ran into a bathroom of a nearby business. 28-year-old Samuel Patterson of Wagner has been charged with aggravated assault and grand theft of that vehicle. Coming out of Apple Valley, a security officer working at the Winco Foods was assaulted by a 32-year-old robbery suspect. Deputy sheriffs were summoned after the shoplifter was uncooperative and assaulted store security. Through an investigation, officers learned Jonathan David Roberts, a resident of Apple Valley, filled a grocery cart worth of items and attempted to flee before he was contacted by security. Roberts now faces robbery charges and is sitting in jail on a $60,000 bond. Denver, Colorado, J&M Security employed unlicensed security officers at a nightclub in Denver. Now they have had their license suspended. Denver is only one of several jurisdictions within the state of Colorado that even licenses security. They say that the security officers were involved in a shooting. The unlicensed security personnel injured several people during the confrontation, and that's why the company has had their license suspended. Nordstrom Rack security officer was stabbed after a thief was accused of stealing more than $3,000 worth of merchandise. This happened in Bakersfield. John Gutierrez, 22, was stopped by security. He fled, but was later arrested with a loaded handgun, fentanyl pills, and cocaine. He's been booked on grand theft, second-degree robbery, burglary, assault with a deadly weapon, and numerous other felonies, according to police. In other news, Allied Universal Security Guard arrested after threatening to shoot up Destiny USA Mall. This is in Syracuse. And shooting gay people. According to police, Bruce Levesque, an employee of Allied Security, threatened shoppers at the Destiny Mall and gay people. He said he was going to shoot up the mall and kill some gay people. Police took him into custody. No word as to whether or not he has been released on bond. In Albuquerque, New Mexico, a security officer who worked for the city of Albuquerque for about 6 years, Christopher Romero, has been arrested and charged with aggravated assault with a weapon after beating a homeless woman with a baton. His partner at the time told him to stop several times. The man, now accused, Romero, 42, seemed to be angry at something. Police did take him into custody on those felony charges. Milford, Connecticut, a security officer was assaulted there at a restaurant after telling a man to leave. Christopher Byer, 34, a patron at the restaurant, refused to leave the property, eventually assaulted the security officer, and he was charged with assault and breach of peace. In Columbus, Ohio, a contract security officer working for Kroger fatally shot a man who was in the process of robbing a customer in the parking lot with a firearm. Now, this person who was shot had previously been involved in a disturbance inside the store. Being upset, he went out and tried to rob a person at gunpoint. The security officer spotted what was happening and went out and had to use lethal force. The man died. Men with rifles killed a security officer at an underground casino/hookah lounge. This happened in L.A. a few days ago. Police say 2 men barged into the possibly unlicensed casino in Studio City with rifles. They disarmed the security officer. Anthony Rivas, 32, was the security officer, and police say he was shot and killed. Police are still investigating this situation. A suspect robbed an armored truck at the Tyson's Food in Illinois. Authorities say that the security officer was there to fill an ATM. According to the sheriff's department, they don't know if the man got away with cash or how much. A security guard found not guilty of a 2019 assault of an 11-year-old shoplifter at a store in Boston. We followed this story when it first came out. Now a jury has found the security officer not guilty in connection to any charges. According to the jury, the security officer, Muhammad Khan, was accused of choking and punching the 11-year-old, who later admitted to shoplifting $175 worth of merchandise, but a jury found the security officer not guilty. They say he had a right to defend himself. A woman has been arrested for threatening to stab a security officer in North Little Rock. This happened at the North Little Rock High School. Police responded after the woman threatened to stab the security officer while dropping off a student. Whitney Lewis, 36, was charged. In this case, she faces a felony terroristic charge as well as a misdemeanor account of assault and criminal trespassing. 2 Mississippi police officers were shot, one fatally, during a hostage standoff. This happened in Brandon, Mississippi, not too far, maybe 30 minutes from Jackson. The officer was struck and killed. A second was injured. A teenager in Dallas, Texas, 17 years old, has been charged in the murder of a security officer. The security officer witnessed the 17-year-old breaking into some vehicles. When he approached the person, security officer Santiago was shot several times. Through an investigation, police were able to locate the 17-year-old suspect. A man shot a gun at a security officer in San Antonio, Texas. Renee Valderas, 35, has been charged with second-degree felony aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. This was in regards to a shooting that occurred. He escaped in a Cadillac Escalade. Police were able to find him still with the gun. Remember, when you see news happening, anytime, day or night, contact us at helpdesk at privateofficer.com. It's very important that we keep on top of the news and that we track as much of this news as we possibly can. We are going to take a quick break. When I come back, I want to talk about the necessity of understanding the changes in private security and law enforcement and the need to integrate technology, training, and all of the tools, all of the equipment necessary to protect our personnel, our clients, and to do the job professionally, effectively, and the way that it should be done. You are listening to the voice of the Frontline Protector. We'll be right back here on the Private Officer Beat Radio.
Spice, or Mojo, or just Joe. It's the new most popular drug. It looks harmless and sounds fun, but it's not. Spice is made in filthy conditions. There is no recipe. It's made with anything that can soak up chemicals. It's treated with roach spray or rat poison. It's illegal because it's poisonous. Our hospitals are flooded with its victims. It can cause a lethal medical emergency such as seizures, convulsions, violence toward others, psychosis, and even sudden death. Don't be fooled. Spice kills.
What a fantastic day.
What a fantastic day.
The water is like glass.
The water is like glass.
Don't forget the sodas.
Don't forget the life jackets.
Who wants the 8 and who wants the 15?
Who wants the inflatables?
What a great day.
To be on the water.
So glad you saw me go over.
That was so funny. When you went over and your life jacket inflated.
Never go out without a life jacket on again.
What a great day we had.
When it comes to wearing life jackets, make the right choice. You're in command. Vote responsibly. This message brought to you by the National State Voting Council and the U.S. Coast Guard.
Last week, this week, and next week, we're doing a trilogy talking about the Industrial Revolution, the advancements that it took to bring us forward from the 1800s and 1900s. Now, in the 21st century, the year 2023, we have to realize that no business that's going to grow can sit back and do it the same old way they've done it for the last 50 or 100 years. Watching a special this past weekend, it just brought it all home to me, something that I have been studying, watching for quite some time. Farmers. This show was about farmers and technology, showing how farmers of today, well, they no longer count on physical labor to do everything. They use vast amounts of technology, everything from satellite weather updates to satellite communication to driverless tractors, robots that can be programmed to go out into the field and eradicate all the weeds by themselves. They're able to look through a camera lens and look at what they perceive to be weeds as they were programmed, certain specifications, and they have an arm that will swoop on down and pluck that thing out and move on down the road, saving farmers dozens and hundreds of hours of manual labor that they either can't afford or don't have the ability to recruit. Farmers use high technology these days to control how much water is put on the field. Many times water is wasted. It's oversaturated, or it runs off the field, again, wasted, not getting down to the root. Now technology has shown them how to irrigate their crops better, meaner, leaner, more precise, waste less water, and get the water down into the root system where it needs to go. Everything being done on the farm these days has technology in it somewhere along the way, whether that be after they harvest the produce or the vegetables. You know, it goes through a bunch of scanners. They kick out the bad apples, so to speak. You know, they see the potatoes that maybe they have a dark spot or whatever, and they kick it out so that it doesn't get bagged up. Technology is everywhere, from the farmer's field to the fire department to law enforcement using drones and dogs, you know, robotic dogs, and all sorts of computer-aided services and systems, technology, the eye in the sky, helicopters with infrared. I mean, there's everything that you can think of is changing today. I can remember growing up, and I tell this story and people laugh, but it's true. Growing up, when we first got a phone in our home, we were on the party line. No, it was no party, believe me. But two families, someplace within the city, shared the same line. And there was no privacy. If you were having a conversation, someone on the other party line could pick up and listen in. And sometimes they would go, or they would click the receiver a few times to let you know time's up. They want to make a phone call. But that was what we had then. And I've been around for 6.5 decades. I've seen a lot of changes. I can remember riding in my uncle's brand new Buick with the big fins on the back, like the Elvis pink Cadillac. And boy, that was the latest thing. That was some fancy stuff. A Buick was like driving a Cadillac. And he worked in a factory and saved his money, and boy, he couldn't wait to get the latest, you know, vehicle out there. That was fancy stuff there. But those things changed. The designs of the vehicles changed. The technology, everything about the vehicles have changed. Everything about your clothing style has changed. It's true, some things go around more than once. So what was popular in the 70s, like bell bottoms, for instance, well, they came back for a short time, you know, about 10 years ago. Things do come back around. But technology is what drives success these days. I don't think that we'll ever see a time where everything is robotic. I mean, there's going to have to be humans involved. But we have to understand, we have to kind of back away and understand that some technology is good. And in this security business, we cannot, especially today when many companies cannot even hire a body. It used to be, you know, anybody will do. Who do you hire? A body, anybody. But now it's very difficult to hire people. I said last week, and I've been saying this for years, I don't know how Allied Universal does it. They're the largest contract security company in the world, bar none. Walmart, the largest retailer in the world, bar none. How do they keep bringing people through the doors? Because they have a high turnover rate. They don't pay a lot of money. There's not much benefits. There's not a lot of reasons to work for these giant companies, and yet they keep bringing them in. It's a revolving door, but how do they do it? Where do they find the people? In the private security business, it's a people-oriented business. You got to have that labor, manpower. As I've said many times before on this radio program and others, and in my interviews with the media, we're in the staffing business. How many bodies does that client want? What hours do they want them to be there? What duties do they have to have? And how much are they willing to pay per hour? That's the formula of a contract security company. It's very, very simple. Find out how many hours you want. Okay, we got 107 hours this week. Well, we need 2 or 3 security officers to make up those 107 hours. It's a very simple business. It's all about labor. And without labor, machines drones, robots, yes, they are beginning to fill in, but they can't be everywhere and do everything. We need, in the security business, to figure out a better mousetrap. What is it that we have to do? How can we make changes that both uses physical labor security as well as electronic and other technology that is available? We're coming right back on the Private Officer Beat Radio.
If you're not already receiving breaking news and our bi-weekly newsletter, Officer Down Reports, and discount training news in your personal or business email, then go to our website right now at privateofficer.org. Privateofficer.org. A Dropbox will come down. Just fill out your info, and you'll be the first, one of the first, for sure, to know about what's happening in the security industry. You'll know when a security officer is killed. You'll also get these great discounts on training and equipment and so much more. Privateofficer.org. And if you're not already a member of the Private Officer International Association, sign up while you're there today. Become a lifetime member for just $99, and we'll also include a free Private Officer International patch and lapel pin.
Turn around, don't drown, your car is not a boat. Turn around, don't drown, your car, it will not float. So when the water starts to rise, open your eyes, have yourself a plan. Use your head and think, don't let your dreams sink, it's just that easy, you can. Turn around, don't drown, your car is not a boat.
For a number of weeks now, I have been talking about the real-time crime center technology, and for the next week, this week and next week, we're doing a trilogy that's all about technology, about the advancement, how modernization of technology has led to how we do business, how we provide customer service, how we provide products, and whether we like to think about it or not, law enforcement and private security are in the customer service business to an extent. Of course, we're there to enforce the rules, the regulations, and the law, but to be, as civil as possible and to provide a service. And we've talked about the Real-Time Crime Center in recent weeks, how that is really just a supersized surveillance center with a bunch of added technology such as facial recognition, license plate readers, gunshot detection, and a whole bunch of other technology. And here's an example of how that benefits private security. Many people have said, they don't think it's a big deal for, maybe for the police, not really a big deal for security. Well, here's an example of how police used it to help security. In Scottsdale, Arizona, just this past week, police received a call that a security officer was being attacked, that weapons were involved, but they didn't have the exact location of where this was happening. They knew the whereabouts, but the Real-Time Crime Center, which has been recently established in the Scottsdale Police Department, immediately went to work. They began looking at all of their surveillance cameras. They began looking at traffic cameras. They began zooming in on the area where this reportedly was happening. The security officer was under attack, was being injured, and immediately a real-time crime operator tapping into city cameras was able to see the fight happening in real time. And with some very sophisticated software was able to immediately send that real-time live video feed to responding officers who immediately recognized where this was happening and got there very quickly to immediately assist that private security officer. If it was not for this technology, who knows what could have happened? He could have been killed. He was injured, but it could have been much worse. Technology from way, way back hundreds of years ago when they began realizing that, labor, manpower just wasn't going to cut it. And even the fire service has had to make a lot of adjustments over the years. Turnout gear is much heavier and much more protective and heat resistant. Much of the equipment used today has all been developed just in recent years. The roles and the responsibilities of firefighters themselves have changed significantly over the past few decades. The fact is that firefighters must perform not only firefighting, fighting structure fires, but they also must be able to search and rescue, mitigate hazmat situations, respond to all sorts of disasters, man-made, as well as Mother Nature's tornadoes and hurricanes, and these type of calls continue to increase. That means firefighters have to respond sometimes to even violent emergencies, active shooters, domestic violence where weapons are active, storms that are very dangerous to respond to, situations. And when we think about the gear that firefighters have, we see just in 20 years all of the changes, designs for the safety of the firefighter. Now a big change for firefighters. I mean, they have had to wear body armor in recent years responding to fires and medical emergencies. Now they're switching out their helmets, and they're going to not only protect them in fires, but in ballistic situations. It not only provides a sense of security for these firefighters, but also a sense of confidence when they put them on, when they're wearing them. Yes, it's been designed originally to protect the heads from thermal and low velocity direct impact. Helmets often contribute to additional exertion and sprain-related head and neck injuries. I mean, something can fall on you. You're inside a building on fire or some other hazmat situation. We have timbers, we have steel, metal, all sorts of debris falling upon us, especially in an active live fire. The Department of Homeland Security, Science and Technology and Texas Tech University researchers, they recently jointly developed a protective and lightweight next-gen firefighter helmet. And this is going to protect firefighters that will provide firefighter out in the field both fire and ballistic protection and mitigate the risk of that blunt head trauma. Who would have thought that firefighters, of all people, were going to have to wear ballistic helmets? Just like SWAT going into a tactical scene or an active shooter. But that piece of equipment is going to provide adequate functional mobility and postural stability and really help to reduce the risk of injury to the cervical spine and neck muscle fatigue, and also protect from bullets. A modern firefighter helmet right now, it has to be integrated. When you look at a helmet and all of the gear that firefighters wear, you have to understand that the features have to be much more than just thermal protection. We've got to protect from chemicals, from burns, from smoke inhalation. We have to have communication devices, face shields, visors, thermal imaging, which is now built inside the face mask, breathing apparatus mask, lighting. But at the same time, that helmet has to be light. We can't have 50 pounds of gear on our head. We already have that plus on the body. So this new device that's been developed, it's going to be incorporated with alternative materials and advanced aerodynamic designs so that it's going to be a little bit lighter weight, but much more protection. The next generation firefighter helmet, they say, will have a shell that can absorb energy, impact, and dissipate it rapidly without damaging the skull or brain. We have seen just in recent years the high changes, the high velocity changes in equipment, the way that our helmet, the face mask piece fits, and all the things that we now have what's called heads up. We can see what our oxygen tanks, how much oxygen is left in there. We can see how it's doing. We can see all the information right there in the face mask. And now we can also sense heat and other data within our face mask. And now the helmet, the next gen helmet 2, is going to help us to have our heads better protected. Everything that we do across the board, especially in public safety, is all about keeping us safe. And in this private security business, in this law enforcement business, we have to, A, keep us safe first so that we can do the job. No dead rescuer ever rescued anyone. We have to protect uno numero number 1 in order to be able to protect others. Technology. The Industrial Revolution that I keep speaking about has entered into every public safety arena except private security. Think about it for 1 second. The equipment that private security wears, the uniforms, the technology that they use, other than an upgrade in the DTEX clock of 100 years ago, well, maybe 50, everything is the same. We're doing standard staffing work. We're providing a body. But on the other hand, some security companies are using technology, drones, robots, heat sensors, all sorts of equipment in their vehicles. They're able to do their reports on their laptops in their vehicle. They're able to communicate on their laptops, just like law enforcement, fire, EMS. Many, many small to mid-sized security companies are specialists, and they understand the equipment that it takes to provide the service. That's why I am telling you in these 3 weeks, the trilogy, that we have to realize that technology is not the enemy, it's our friend. And whether that's, the use of robots part-time or having more electronic surveillance, gun detection, real-time crime centers, whatever it might be, it's important. It's important that we have it. I'm going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with part 2. Private security and law enforcement are switching how they respond. Police, more reactive. Security, more proactive. We'll be right back here on the Private Officer Beat Radio.
I'm controlling my diabetes.
It's making a huge difference.
I'm eating healthy and staying physically active.
I'm taking my medicine.
If I can do it, anyone can.
Control your diabetes for life. Call 1-800-438-5383.
There was the explosion, and I remember just opening my eyes, and it got both of my legs. I had surgery after surgery, and what's going to happen next? The Wounded Warrior Project said, look, brother, everything's going to be okay. 3 months from now, 4 months from now, a year from now, you'll be fine. I don't know if I would be as well adjusted as I am now if it wasn't for them.
To learn more, call 1-877-832-6997 or visit woundedwarriorproject.org.